In the previous section, we've started using React. In this section, we'd like to enhance our application with Redux. We're going to take a look at functional programming, 3 principles of Redux, actions and reducers, asynchronous actions, and testing. In this video, we'll start using Redux and we'll begin understanding of functional programming. In this video, we'll install Redux. We'll create our first reducers functions. And we'll go ahead and use time travel debugging. We're going to add Redux to our application. Redux is state container for JavaScript applications. Redux can be used with any JavaScript framework like Angular, Ember, React, or Vue, but we're going to add it to our React application. First, we need to install it. We're going to use npm to install 3 packages. First package is Redux. Second is React Redux. It provides bindings for our React application to use Redux. Third package is Redux DevTools extension. It will enable us to use Redux developer tools in Chrome browser. Now we can go to our application code. We have changed our application structure. First, we've moved our components under components directory. Second, we've added containers directory, which I will explain later. Next, mocked data of our application changed. Next, I've created products.js to store data for our products. You can see products data is now in one array, and we can call getProductById to find concrete product. This is later used in categories.js. As you can see, instead of hard coding products, we import getProductById from products. Later, we use it to define products of our categories that we need. Later, actions.js and reducers.js files were added. These are related to using Redux. In actions.js file, we define action types and action creators. Our only action type for now is toggle card visibility. As you can see, it is a constant of type string, and action creator enables us to get correct format to send an action. In Redux, whole application state is represented by object. It's called state. Here we can define states of our application parts. For example, in our application we have cart. Cart, for example, has property is expanded. There's also more to representing state of our application. For example, products of our cart should also be represented in state. We can also have categories as state. Our products also could belong to state of application. State should represent data of whole application. In Redux, our application and application state changes by using actions. We should never mutate state directly, but instead dispatch actions on a store. In Redux, we use store. Let's imagine that our store, for now, has state, which we can see here. Now to toggle card visibility, we need to dispatch an action on the store. So our state will change. Now we need to pass at least action type. In our case, it's toggle card visibility. Type of action should be string. In our application, we're going to use only card state for the beginning. If this was our initial state, and now we've dispatched an action, our state will change. And our isExpanded will be toggled. As you can see, we don't mutate previous state, but instead we return new object. It's done via reducers. Reducer takes previous state and an action and returns new state. Reducer is simply a function. For example, we could have cart reducer. It receives previous state and action. It should return new state. In this example, our reducer can look like this. In this example, it would basically take its expanded value from previous state and return the inverse. However, there are a few things we could also do here to make our reducer better. For example, our state should be initially set to an empty object. Later, we need to check action type before we do anything with the state. Usually it's done using switch statement in Redux. By default, and if state didn't change, we should return previous state. And this is basically how Redux works. Every change in Redux state will be done using reducers. So we're going to have a lot of functions. Our functions should be pure, like this one. It doesn't change any object, but instead returns new objects. This is linked to immutability concept. Let's delete this example. And once again, this is how our actions file looks like. Now you should have better understanding of its job. Next file is called reducers. Here's our card reducer. As you can see, we import toggle card visibility from actions. We define our initial card state, and here's our card reducer. If no state object is passed, we use initial card state. We have switch with action type. If action type is toggle card visibility, we toggle is expanded property of our card. We use this by accessing previous state. At the end, we have our up reducer, which simply combines reducers. Next changed file is up component. Here we import our up reducer composed of card reducer and create store from Redux. Later, we create our store passing up reducer. Also, to enable developer tools extension, we pass also compose with DevTools here. Next thing we need to do is wrap our application using provider component. Provider component is imported from React Redux bindings. We pass our store to provider component. We do this so we don't need to pass store to each component that wants to access it. In our example, we've changed how we declare our card component. In React and Redux, there's a convention of separating presentational and container components. Presentational components aren't aware of Redux, and container components are aware of Redux. So, to render our card component, which is presentational, we need to wrap it using card container. Card container is container component. It has knowledge of Redux store. It takes application state and maps it to properties on card component. Let's go ahead and see how our card container is implemented. First, we import connect function from React Redux. Next, we import toggle card visibility action from actions. Toggle card visibility is action creator. Next, we import our card component. Next, we define map state to props function. It receives state and maps it to properties that we want to set on card component. In our example, we want isExpanded property on card component to be equal to state card isExpanded property on state. Also, we define map dispatch to props. We pass on card button click, which is accepted by card component, and if it's called, we dispatch action. Action that we dispatch is toggle card visibility. We import this from our actions. We can pick its definition. It basically returns a type of our action. Next thing we need to do is to create card container. It's generated using connect function. We pass our mapping of state to props and dispatch to props to that function. And later, we call it with our component that we want to wrap. In this case, component that we want to wrap is card. Now let's go ahead to our card component. This is our card component. We no longer need to define visibility handler here. As you can see, we receive onCard button click handler from outside, and bind it to card button. Also, we receive isExpanded property and use it to toggle class names. It's all we need to do to start with Redux in our application. Let's go ahead and see how it works. This is our application. Basically, we've only added toggling card visibility using Redux. Let's go ahead and see if it works. As you can see, it works. But let's go ahead and see our Redux developer tools. These are our Redux developer tools. You can go ahead and install it using Chrome Store. We have our actions listed here. We can refresh our application. And as you can see, there's only init action in Redux. So basically there were no actions that were fired by the user. Now when we click our card button, we can see toggle card visibility action was fired. Here we can see the difference between our store. As you can see, card isExpanded was changed from false to true. We can go ahead and also see the action that was fired. As you can see, this is action that was fired. Its type was toggle card visibility. Now we can go ahead and click card button once again. New toggle card visibility action was fired in Redux. As you can see, isExpanded was changed from true to false. And action that was fired was of the same type. We've opened card again, and another action was fired. Using Redux allows us to do time travel debugging. We can go back in time and replay all actions that were fired by the user. As you can see, we've moved to the beginning of using our application. You can see card is hidden now. Let's go ahead and replay our user actions. We've replayed user actions. As you can see, Redux provides very nice debugging tools. In this video, we've started using Redux and getting to know functional programming.